All right, let's get you more breaking updates we are getting this morning. But the Delhi High Court has now turned down the plea by the Ansal brothers. They're seeking suspension of their sentence. This is a development that is taking place where earlier the Delhi High Court, which had reserved the verdict in the matter of suspending the sentences of Gopal and Sushil Ansal in connection with the tampering of the evidence in the Upahar tragedy case. This is yet another setback to them, where the Delhi High Court has now turned down the plea by the Ansal brothers seeking suspension of the sentence. Now, clearly what is being said by the court so far, it is being said that they are now putting down when it comes to the hearing that was clearly underway before the single judge bench of Justice Subramaniam Prasad, and oral arguments that were also made in the case that had been concluded the other day. Right now, straight away go across to Ananya now. Ananya, over to you. I believe you also have the parents of the victims of the Upahar tragedy, and how are they now reacting to what the High Court has said?
Well, yes, Amita, first of all, very good morning to our viewers and you as well. What we see is that the Delhi High Court single judge bench of Justice Subramaniam Prasad has turned down the petitions filed by the Ansal brothers, however, allowing the application for suspension of sentence of Anup Singh Karyat, who's another accused in this case. But there's no relief for the Ansal brothers from the Delhi High Court single bench, and we'll have to wait and watch as to what happens in the detailed order, which would be uploaded by the court till the evening. We'll have to wait and watch for what reasons would have been mentioned by Justice Prasad while dismissing this appeal by the Ansal brothers. And this is, remember, the second jolt to the Ansal brothers after the trial courts, the session court had also dismissed their petition. And I am also being joined by Mr. R. Krishnamurthy and Ms. Neelam Krishnamurthy, who had unfortunately lost their children during this unfortunate tragedy that happened in 1997. Ma'am, किस तरीके से आप देखती हैं जो ये वर्डिक्ट अभी आया है आज कोर्ट की तरफ से जो फैसला सुनाया गया?
I think I really welcome the verdict because it sends a very strong message. Because it isn't a, ordinary sentence. This is a sentence, this is an offense which is a very grave offense. This is tampering with the judicial records. And this cannot be taken lightly by the courts at all, because this is like, insulting the courts. I mean, you have no respect for the institution like the courts, then what else would you have respect for? These are the people who have no respect for the rule of the law. They have no respect for the cinematographic rules, the building bylaws, and now they've also shown the complete disrespect to the courts by tampering with the evidence and getting Sushil Ansal even gone to the extent of even getting his passport done without the permission of the courts. So that's also, deceiving the government of India. So I think these type of people need to be kept behind bars, and a strong message has to go to the society. No matter how rich and powerful you are, the law must take its own course. The law will take its own course of time, and that is precisely what is happening, and we are very happy about it.
Sir, it's a long battle. You've been fighting since 1997. How does this verdict come across?
It's been a great relief for us, because the main Upahar case, we were jolted because they were only convicted for 2 years, and that also the Supreme Court let them go scot-free by giving them a fine of 30 crores each. But this was quite a difficult case because of tampering with the evidence, like Neelam said, that it is interfering in the administration of justice. So they, the courts have to send, because in this case the court is also a victim. We are a victim in this court because we had to face a lot of trial and tribulations in this thing. And moreover, this is actually it's basically interfering in the administration of justice, and this should be avoided, and the court should come heavily on them, and then these people should not be let off so lightly on this case.
Another question. These fire tragedies are still very common. They still occur. Do you think that the government has still not learned, the authorities have still not learned from the past?
Definitely, we have not learned anything. We've had innumerable fire incidents after Upahar fire incidents, and I have been raising up my voice. We want to bring in a change. All I can say is there have been some changes, but not the drastic changes that is really required, because we are losing thousands of lives due to fire incidents. We need to put our system in check. we don't care about fire safety. What the government forgets is that fire safety matters. That is something they need to be reminded again and again. Unfortunately, it's only taken up even by the media only when there is a fire incident. How I wish that the media would have a campaign on fire safety, at least for 1 week, so that the government would realize how important fire safety is.
Last and final question. This has been a very, very long legal journey that you've fought. And many of the people who are watching this might be too young to even analyze. If you could throw a light on the whole journey that has traveled across with these 2 successful judgments coming in.
Definitely, it's been a very, very long journey. It's 2.5 decades, and I'm sure there are 3 generations. I've seen 3 more generations after that, because in the last 25 years, I've seen a lot of people coming in. In fact, I'm working with some of them who were born after the Opar fire incident, and they really don't know much about it. But unfortunately, this happened due to the sheer negligence and greed of the owners, which is they were in cahoot with the authorities, and how they managed to run the cinema hall and violating all the fire safety norms, violating every single building bylaw and the cinematographic rules. So, and we had to work very hard to prove that case. Unfortunately, they were charged only under 304A, that is Rash and Negligent Act. But despite being convicted by all the 3 courts, Sessions, the trial court, High Court and the Supreme Court, they were ultimately allowed to walk free by paying a fine of 30 crore each, because they were rich and powerful. They could afford to pay the fine of 30 crore each, because the Supreme Court judgment very categorically stated the 2 years rigorous imprisonment, but it can be period undergone if you pay a fine of 30 crore each. But if you fail to pay the fine, then you must go and pay the, serve your sentence. What did it mean? That if they hadn't paid, if they didn't have the money, they would have done 2 years. So it actually shows they were allowed to walk free because they had money. I think we cannot have a parallel legal system in our country where the law of the land is different for the rich and the poor, because a poor man could not have paid 30 crores. So that means had it been a poor man, he would have languished in jail. But Ansals had the money, so they could pay the money and walk out.
But it happened, H.S. Panwar, who was a fire officer, he was let off by paying, they made him pay only 10 lakh rupees. So, again, the Supreme Court also sees, like the balance, who's rich, who's poor, and, they let him off with 30 crores, they let him off with 10 lakhs. This is not the way. People have lost life. Like, we always say that, the judges sitting there, they know who is Ansals, but they don't know who's Unnati and Ujjwal, my daughter and my son. They're 17 and 13-year-old, and what they would have been, they would have been, went to, would have become in life. But nobody bothers about that. That is a tragedy. We are now, it's a living death sentence for us. We are fighting this case for 25 years, and we call ourselves, the leading democracy in the world, and, we're supposed to be having a robust judiciary. If robust judiciary is going to take 25 years to give a judgment in a case like this, we are appalled,
So this is, as you see, that after 2 successful judgments, that the parents are still a little relieved, but still the judgments that were there in the past have horrified them, and the incident is still afresh in their minds. And as we come across, the Delhi High Court has now turned down the whole judgment, these appeals filed by Ansal brothers, and now they might approach the Supreme Court. Amita.
Right. Thanks very much, Ananya, for the update. So the Delhi High Court has now turned down the plea by the Ansal brothers seeking suspension of their sentence.